The talk today is called Just What I Expected, and it's kind of inspired by my friend Nick Annis and a song that he wrote. And one of the lines in there is the very bitter sounding, I think, ex-girlfriend saying, he was about what I expected and less than I deserved. And that's such a great line, about what I expected and less than I deserved, because what we're talking about is what are our expectations? What are you expecting? Because we each have our own expectations. We each have our own beliefs, our own belief system about what it is that's going to show up in our lives. The abbreviation for belief system is BS. So we are all living our own BS. You can interpret that whatever way that you want to. But what it comes down to is it doesn't matter what we say we want. It's what we believe we're going to get. It's what we expect is going to happen that we're creating in our lives. Because the universe, this is an infinite creative universe, an infinite power. If you take a look at the photos that were taken by the Voyager deep spacecraft, the last thing before they shut the cameras down, Carl Sagan had this great idea. This was in the 70s. This is, instead of looking at the other planets and looking out into the galaxy, let's turn them around and take a picture of Earth. And Earth is what they call the pale blue dot. This little speck. Everything that has ever happened in history, everything good, everything bad that's happened to you, to your family, to the human race, to the entire planet has happened on that pale blue dot. This is an infinite universe where everything is possible. I mean, so much gets packed into that one little dot, and there's so much more of the universe. Everything is possible. So what we're creating is not what's possible. What we're creating is what we believe is possible. And that kind of dovetails into what the fifth agreement is about. Be skeptical, but learn to listen. And the other four agreements, which are really important, I really have to hand it to Don Jose Ruiz. His dad sold millions of copies of the four agreements while he was a kid. And he's grown up and he's going through his teenage years. And his rebellion was to write the fifth agreement. Okay. There's a leadership book that Reverend Dave and I were studying when we were in ministry class called The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, Revised Edition. And it's one of those, I guess they weren't quite as irrefutable as he originally thought they were. And there's a great explanation of why in there, but the same thing with the fifth agreement. We had a chance to meet Don Jose a couple of years ago, and he speaks passionately about this. And actually, he's carrying on his dad's work. He's now the shaman of their tribe in Mexico. And the four agreements hold together really well. And the fifth agreement is kind of implied by them, and it goes on top of that. One of the agreements is about assumptions. It says never make assumptions. But the fact is we're always making assumptions, and that's what the fifth agreement is about. It's about questioning those assumptions. It's about being in doubt. It's about saying, wait, hang on a second, is this something that's actually true, or is this just something that I've picked up because everybody believes it, because that's just the way that we think things are? We're always living with those assumptions, with those expectations, that we're expecting something to be the way that we thought it was going to be, rather than opening ourselves up to what actually is possible here. On my way home last week, I stopped to pick up lunch, and there was a woman who was sitting outside. She was sitting on a bench, sort of yelling to all of the passerbys, saying, "Can you help me out with some change? Can you help me out with some change?" And of course, nobody was going over and giving her. Every once in a while, somebody would give her some money, which I guess made it worth doing. "Can you help me out with some change?" And she doesn't know the business that I'm in. I'm in the business of creating a new life with a new thought. You bet I can help you out with some change, but it's not coming out of my pocket, it's coming out of your consciousness. Can I help her out with some change? Yeah. And the first thing is that she actually has to want it. How many metaphysicians does it take to change a light bulb? The light bulb has to want to change. Sorry, I won't do any more of those. But your belief system, The belief system, the terrain that you have of what you think is possible and what you think is impossible is actually your personal BS detector. You can tell what it is that you believe. You can tell what it is that you doubt. You can tell what it is that you're open to by activating that BS detector. And there's good news and there's bad news about this. The folks in here who have been in classes and to the practical prayer workshop know how you can figure out what's in your belief system. Anybody remember? Look at your life. The experience that you're having in your life is a topographical map of your belief system. If it's done unto you as you believe, then what's being done unto you must be what you believe. And the only way that you're going to be able to change it is by changing the belief. And having that assumption that I can continue doing the same thing that I've always done and get a different result is the definition of insanity. I didn't make that up. So as we go through our lives, as we're living I'll use the term, outpicturing, the result, the manifestation of our belief system, that can be something that builds upon itself and builds upon itself and builds upon itself in an upward spiral where it keeps getting better and better and better. Or it can get into one of those situations where something happens and we don't like it and it's a problem, and then with that same spiral is a downward spiral. And sometimes we come to a situation and we feel like we've been there before. Haven't I already dealt with this? Well, yeah, that's the nature of a spiral. If you've got something here, you come around, go all the way in this big, long trip, and then you're back to the same sort of thing. Now, it's not the same place because you've actually come a whole long way, but you're getting back into familiar territory. The thing that makes it get better, or appear to not get better, is the growth that you've done and the perspective that you have on the way through. So as you go through your life, as you go through living your belief system, are you in a groove where the things are happening the way you want it to? You get into that groove? Or are you in a rut? Because you know what the difference is between a groove and a rut? It's what you call it. That's the only difference between being in the groove and being in a rut, is whether the experience is one that's bringing more joy and more happiness to your life. It's about whether or not you're creating the life that you want to be creating or not. Now, here we are, all of us on this pale blue dot, with this infinite creative power that has created that and everything else. Wouldn't it seem like it's the height of arrogance to think that there is somebody who is micromanaging your life and saying you can't have something, or you have to do something, or you can't be, or you must be? We're free to choose. Anything that's within that range of possibility, anything that we can think of, is possible for us. The stuff that we can explain, we call science. The stuff that we can explain that we didn't used to be able to do, we call technology, and we call growth and expansion and development and evolution. And the stuff that happens that we can't explain, we call miracles. And you know what? It's all the same stuff. It's just whether we know why it works or not. So one of the agreements is don't make assumptions. When you're living your expectation, is it because you've made an assumption about the way something is going to be? One of the projects that I'm working on is bumper stickers for New Thought Philadelphia. I think I might have talked about these a little bit. Bumper stickers are basically billboards you can't afford to put up as a billboard yet. So here's one of them. You've got questions? We've got questions too. One of my teachers used to, somebody would say, I got a question. He'd say, I have an answer. That always seemed a little off to me. It's like, really? He thinks that he hasn't heard the question yet. Somebody says, I have a question. I said, great. Let's see if we're both ignorant. Or let's see if we can figure it out. But the assumption when somebody begins reading that is that it's going to be, we've got answers. We don't have answers. But let's open ourselves up to the questions. Let's go into that place of doubt that Don Jose is talking about. What is possible here? Let's be skeptical, but listen. And see what could be true and what piece of truth or what focus we want to have for ourselves as we bring something new into our lives. This might be my favorite bumper sticker. My God is bigger. this bumper, and the thing that, and everybody I show it to has an opinion about it. Everyone I show this to has an opinion about it. And it's not for what the bumper sticker says. It's for the assumption that the word after bigger is than, and then the word after that is something else. Most people assume it's my God is bigger than your God, which, just in my own defense, it doesn't say that, right? No, it doesn't say that. That actually happens in the mind of the person who's reading it. What it means is my God is bigger than anything. If you think there's a possibility that some bumper stickers will say that their God is bigger than your God, then what kind of credit are you giving your God? What kind of an assumption is that? Is that there could be anything bigger than that? It's like, I don't know what that means, but I know it doesn't mean there's something bigger than my God, because that's simply not true. The idea behind that bumper sticker is, regardless of the situation that we're in, how good things are in our lives, God is bigger than that. No matter how challenging or difficult things are in our lives, God is bigger than that. And because God is bigger than that and we're part of it, we are always open to that growth. There's always an opportunity for our lives to get better, for things to grow. Some great assumptions in there. Here's another one, only works in Philadelphia. I love Stephen Singer. And all of God's creation. He's a jeweler. And he put billboards all over town that say, I hate Stephen Singer. And then the story is that his prices are so low that all the jewelers hate Stephen Singer. The best thing that can happen to a small spiritual community like this is for Stephen Singer's people to sue us. For loving Stephen Singer. Let me go to court. Let me go to court on that one. No, Stephen. Get your lawyers out of the way. Get the jewelry industry out of the way. We love you just because you're a divine and perfect expression of God's love. See the other bumper sticker about my God is bigger. But there's an assumption, that why am I talking about Stephen Singer if you haven't seen the billboards? And if you have seen the billboards, it's like, why are we doing that? But let's go past the assumptions. Let's go past the expectations. What are you expecting? And you need to know what you're expecting. You get to set the intention for what you're expecting in your life. What do you think is going to happen tomorrow? Do you think tomorrow is going to be better than yesterday? Is tomorrow going to be a repeat of yesterday, but you're going to be older? There's a great saying, nothing changes if nothing changes. So if you want to have a different experience, you need to do something different. So a lot of people say, well, I know that I want something different to be happening in my life, but I don't know what to do. Well, there are two things that I can suggest for you. This is your homework, the game that you can play. One is the what-if game. Well, what if I were more open to this? What if I were to share my gifts in this way? What if, and it can be anything. It can be about relationships. It can be about your health. It can be about your activities. It can be about your job, your work, the way that you're in relationships. It can be about any of those things. You play what if. And the other one, which is a real favorite of mine, is find yourself a mentor or a role model. The difference between mentors and role models is that the mentors know who you are, and the role models you can study from a different distance. There are a lot of people who are students and now teachers of New Thought who started out by reading a book called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And what Napoleon Hill did is he noticed that there were some people who were fabulously successful. He was talking about Andrew Carnegie and Rockefeller and Henry Ford. And so what he did is he studied them. He went to look at these people, these successful men, and say, what do they have in common? And that's what his book is about. Because they all had this idea that they could do something and create something wonderful. So his whole premise is, if you act like successful people, then you'll be successful. Bandler and Grinder invented NLP, which is a hypnosis technique. And they did that by studying hypnotists who were doing really, really effective, successful work. Virginia Satir and Milton Erickson and a few others. And they created this new science, this new subspecialty, which is being used by all kinds of people at this point. And what they've noticed is that in hypnosis, it's basically about suggesting to somebody what their future can be and then getting them to agree to that. And the people who did it really well created this new opportunity and allowed people to step into a new experience, and it was really successful. And the people who weren't good at it would create that new opportunity, and they let their client step into it, and then they'd say something that would make them step right back. And so they'd spend the entire session stepping into their new reality and then stepping back into their old one. And it was always a toss-up as to whether it was going to be effective or not. And they learned this by watching people do it. They learned that by using as role model and as mentors, as examples, people who were very successful at it. There's a movie with Billy Crystal, I think, and Meg Ryan. And there's a scene in the deli. And you people know which scene it was, where the character actually was played by Billy Crystal's mother, who said, "I'll have what she's having." You remember the movie? If not, I'm not going to explain it now. I'll have what she's having. I'll have what he's having. Pick the example of what it is that you want to bring into your life, and then go in that direction. You don't have to make this all up for yourself. Remember, everything that we have ever known, everything that's ever happened, every relationship, everything is on that pale blue dot. We're all together and we're all connected. So what are you expecting? Are you expecting tomorrow to be like yesterday? Are you expecting something different for tomorrow? If you're expecting something different for tomorrow, what are you expecting? Some effusive, ethereal, well, it's going to be better somehow? Or is there going to be something specific? Zach told us when he got here today that he's not going to be with us next Sunday because he's going to New York to audition for America's Got Talent. Is his plan just to go up there for the audition? No. Is his plan just to get on the Greyhound bus there and back? No. His plan is to win America's Got Talent. And if he doesn't want to win America's Got Talent, then what are you expecting? Because he may win. There might be somebody else who is equally talented and fits the protocol of the TV show in a different way. That doesn't make any difference. The person who's going to win the show knows that that's a possibility for them. That's their expectation, is to go 110% to bring that into their experience. And then whatever happens, that's the good that they're inviting in. So the 4 agreements, first one is be impeccable with your word. So when you're describing that which you are going to be creating or whatever you believe to be true right now, be impeccable with that. Not just good, not just accurate, not even just truthful, impeccable. Are you saying what you mean? Are you meaning what you say? Listen to some people's language and it's amazing. The number of people who say that they're sick of something, or things are a pain in the neck, or that there's cold and flu season. I got news for you. It's a virus. It doesn't know what season it is. You know? It's cold season now? Yeah, well, I know people who get summer colds. What was the matter with that virus? It didn't realize that it was out of season. It has nothing to do with the season. It's that opening, that invitation. Oh, this is why this is going to happen. This is the reason why something's going to be okay. Well, be impeccable with your word and understand exactly what it is that you're inviting in. Second one is don't take things personally. Whatever it is that's going on, it's part of a bigger picture. If somebody says something about you, they're not actually talking about you. They're talking about their experience of you. It's in the reading, that's what Don Jose said, by symbols. They're talking about their symbol for you. And that's okay, but that's their perception of what's going on. Might be true, might not be true. But don't take it personally. It's about how they're reading your symbols. Third one is don't make assumptions. When you're setting an expectation, be really clear about it. The fourth one, always do your best. I love the 4 agreements because it's a very easy to read book. It's a very simple process. It is not easy to live. Very simple to explain, very simple to understand. There's a lot of detail and a lot of nuance. And it came up to our attention this week because Don Jose's publicist invited us to participate in a book tour that he's going to be doing in February. So if we get the team together, perhaps we can have Don Jose come and do an event in Philadelphia with New Thought Philly. I'm not going to make an assumption about whether that's going to happen or not. Open myself up to what that's going to be. course, by the time we get on the phone with the publicist, there's going to be some expectations set. But that's okay, because we're going to have an agreement about that. So what are you expecting? Are you expecting less than you deserve? Are you being realistic in your expectations? Do you believe that all the good that you desire is possible to you? I do. I do, absolutely. All that good that you desire and 10% more is available to you now and always. And I invite you to open yourselves up to it and let it in. Because you deserve it. Because you are lovable and wonderful. So it is.